Order, order. I call this Better Call Saul AFTERBUZZ TV after show to order. We're talking about episode 207, Inflatable. We're going to talk about Jimmy and Kim. We're going to talk about their potential career change and Mike getting into trouble. All that and more on tonight's after show.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey guys, welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. We're going to be talking about Inflatable. Better Call Saul here at AFTERBUZZ TV. Tweet me throughout the week, throughout the show. That's Zach Wilson. Let me introduce my fantastic panel who's all here this week. Kevin Ellis.
How's it going, guys? You can find me on Twitter at @TheKevinEllis or on Instagram at KevinJEllis.
And hey guys, if you can spell my name right, it's Lacretia Lyon, and it's LACRETIALYON, and find me anywhere since there's only one.
Yeah, you say that every week. We can spell it, Lacretia.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
do it for
easy
the
to
iTunes
spell.
people.
It's pretty easy to spell. It's very easy to spell.
No.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux, STPHNLEMIEUX. I also wish we could have like a picture-in-picture right now where throughout the show while we're talking, you just see the wacky wave and inflatable arm.
Wacky
nice
wavy,
little
inflatable
addition.
flailing arms.
Did anybody else see
Wacky
him
wavy,
doing one of
inflatable
these,
arms.
like hula dancing? Like
Like that.
it's awesome.
Oh my god. When we talk about,
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, this episode was a big step forward towards Saul Goodman.
Yes.
To the point, and I'll get into this a little later, like where I almost thought they were gonna do it, like here, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. We're way too early for that. But first impressions, guys, what did you think of Inflatable?
I loved it. I mean, just him trying to get fired. Like that, just all the sequences. I mean, it was almost just, it was so colorful and the little, changes and showing the little pieces. It was almost like watching the 60s Batman with Adam West. With all the color. Yeah.
No, I really, this is probably one of my favorite scenes in television. Just for the sheer craziness of it.
Which scene specifically?
The montage of super.
Oh, the montage, yeah.
The wacky waving inflatable arm flailing two men, wacky waving inflatable arm flailing two men, wacky waving inflatable arm flailing two men.
Hi, I'm Al Harrington of Al Harrington's Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Two Man Emporium and Warehouse.
Would you like to buy a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing two? No, it's just. It was just so.
No.
It's one of those jokes that, like, when you first see it, it's not that funny, and as it continues, it's like, okay, a little bit funny the first time, then it's really funny the third time, then it's not funny again, and then by the end of it, you're just dying laughing because it's just so ridiculous and funny. Like, you would never, like, go back 15 years, you would never expect to see this scene on, like, a very respectable, award-winning television show. Like, you'd expect this from, like, maybe the A-Team, not from Better Call Saul, Emmy award-winning TV show on AMC. Like,
The Schmaltz Factor of it is brilliant.
Ridiculous.
I love it.
It was great. It had this sort of 70s vibe to it, just because of the music and like the colors. Because there's so much pastel going on, thanks to Jimmy.
Well, just the sheer concept of like Saul Goodman's outfits being completely based on the pastel colors of a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing two men.
That's where. Well, no, but that's not entirely true because he was already like using like very specific suits to his purpose last season with Matlock, so he knows the power that a specific suit can give in terms of an image. But yeah, this is where he started doing it. Is he just saw a crazy flailing inflatable man in the wind in a suit and tie, and is like, that's what I should look like. And I knew the instant that smile crept up on his face, I was like, oh, he's going to try to get fired now.
Yeah.
It surprised me when he decided he was just going to quit. Like, were you guys surprised at that moment or towards the beginning of the episode?
Yeah, when he's just having Omar transcribe this, and then, it's just like, well, that was a pretty, bold step there. I'm going to leave this Coco Bolo desk behind.
Omar was so hurt.
He was. He took it
like,
so personally at first.
I would have gotten you a different painting if you didn't like the painting. I got you the Coco Bolo desk. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, he was just really, like, upset. He's like, we did everything you could do for you.
It was brilliant bringing on in Omar into that whole mix, but it was just kind of funny how brash of a decision it was. And then once he finds out that he's no longer going to get the bonus, it's just this instantaneous search for a backup plan. But he finally finds it.
Well, what really stood out to me about that scene and that performance was that is, I think, the first time in all of the history of this character that we've really seen him break like that. We've seen him stutter and just be a lack of because his plan he was so set. This is what I'm going to do, and he just got caught so off guard that he had to play catch up with himself. And usually, this is a guy who's so quick on the draw that he never seems to falter.
Do we know how much his bonus was?
I don't think we ever got that said out loud, but it sort of seems...
Sounds like it's 20, 30 grand.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
I was going to say more.
Something 40. 40 is a number that kind of comes to mind. I don't know if that was mentioned.
I mean,
but
the fact that he's
for
willing to throw 7 back to Davis and Maine for the desk, at all, out of just a more or less just all right, whatever.
It's just so
to make amends. That's a lot of money if it was only 20 grand. To me, it sounded like it was 50 at least, but I don't know if it was actually. Chat roll, if you guys know, let us know if you heard specifically or saw somewhere what exactly his bonus was.
It's just so patronizing to be yeah, sorry, Cliff. You know what? I'll throw you 7 grand back out of this bonus that you know that I'm grifting off you right now. Because we go from the beginning of the episode with the grifter, and now Saul is just that in this moment. The only reason he's not quitting the job is to keep the bonus.
Well, he is and he is. I mean, do you guys think that this is it's not. It is do you guys feel that it's a con to go for the bonus like this to get yourself fired?
Yes,
totally,
completely.
Yeah.
It's all in character. I mean, to go about the means of which he's doing it too. I mean, he gets a blender to disrupt the entire office, just blatantly disrespecting everybody. Not to mention the bagpipes and the fact that he offends Aaron with his number 2. Yeah. But he just goes to such lengths to get himself into a situation where he doesn't have to deal with it anymore.
Well, it's they could fire him for due cause, but everything that he was doing was based on their previously existing rules. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you you could say it's not a con if he's I'm going to go up to Cliff and say the F you that. That's just getting fired for the sake of getting fired. This was just taking the extreme route through things that aren't against the rules, like saving water and letting off some steam by playing an instrument. Because they technically can't say that he was doing anything wrong. It's you instructed him that he should pick up an instrument and take off steam. You said that he should be making sure the environment's clean because Davis and Maine loves a clean environment.
That's he basically, because as Cliff points out at the end, he's been studying contract law. He knows all the things. If this ever went to court, he would be solid in his argument. No, he said blow off some steam. I thought bagpipes might have been the way to go. Who knows?
Yeah, he carefully did everything to where, they were just going to have to get rid of him for being obnoxious. Because it's no, none of this is wrong. You said to do this. You said to do that. Huh?
For what it's worth, I think you're an asshole.
I loved that.
For what it's worth, Cliff, I think you're a pretty good guy. I'm just shut up. Yeah. God, you're just going to piss the guy off more.
I feel bad for Cliff, but then right at the end, when he's walking out, he takes the soda can, drops it in the trash can, just a final way of getting back at Aaron by, showing her that, no, I can now, not follow the rules.
Her face with the toilets, though, was so good.
It was great.
She was
perfect.
So good.
Just him
as if she was doing it herself in the moment.
Okay, I gotta say though,
she's like a little kid. That's just why?
It's so funny though. Have you guys experienced those urinals that you don't use water?
Yes.
To save water? And what always happens is they put 4 of those in a bathroom and then think that they don't have to clean them out or anything, and then the bathrooms just end up being the most hideous smelling things in the world.
No, those things have very specific maintenance. There's one part you have to swap out instead of water.
Yeah, but people don't do it. So every time I see those, I'm hold my breath, go to the bathroom. So, yeah. It's
I've
not
only
even,
seen them in like major corporate buildings.
It's not even like that far-fetched for even a company like this to be like, hey, don't flush, they're saving water.
Yeah.
You know the saying, right? If it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow, let it metal.
Danielle Yount in the chat wonders if the toilet was Chandler.
Oh my god. That's a throwback to...
Yeah, to season 1. Of course it was not. That
Chandler, give me your deuces.
that one would have been okay compared to what it. Like,
Chandler,
give
I'm
it to
low
me, Chandler. You're saving the environment, Chandler, by giving it to me. Whoa. Anyway.
All right.
Back on track. But I want to go back to the top of the episode while we're talking about Jimmy, because we got this awesome little like backstory. We got Mini Jimmy, as I like to think of it.
Mini Jimmy.
Of course, the first thing we see him do is like take a Playboy.
I love that. That was so cute.
Shelf.
Are you sweeping?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But it like, did you guys think this was an accurate portrayal of how Jimmy McGill came to be?
Yeah, I see that was really his first taste of Slippin' Jimmy and who he became to be. Because, yeah, I mean, if you're a little kid and you're in that same situation and you see, because it's obviously not the first time his dad has just been a nice guy and been screwed over. He walks in and sees these guys do that all the time, but he doesn't want to be walked on. So he, of course, takes the side of the con man and takes it from the till of his own father, right?
Yeah, I mean, you clearly saw a guy who just hated watching his dad fail time and time again. You saw this impatience with his father, and he finally was taking matters into his own hands, and something that he feels like he was losing at the later stage of his life, where he just wasn't taking his life by his own hands.
Well, let's just let me just throw something out here that you guys might have overlooked a little bit, because 2 episodes ago we got a great scene with Chuck explaining everything about his father and how Jimmy was the only one taking advantage of his father. Obviously, it's not the case. Obviously, it wasn't Jimmy that led to the downfall of this business. He may have contributed to it, but Chuck was making it seem like every week there was money missing, and it wasn't all Jimmy.
Well, yeah. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that the dad giving out like a handout here and there is not going to add up even over the years to $14,000.
Yeah.
I think basically this is what started that. Like Jimmy wouldn't have been doing that if he didn't see how much he could get away with it, because his dad was so gullible and trusting and overly just like accepting of people. Like this guy is so clearly conning. He's in a really nice leather jacket. Like
there's lots of sheep out there.
Yeah.
No.
There's lots of people who are easily conned, and lots of people who never believe that there are bad people in the world.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that he like turns to this kid who he can hear that being like acknowledging that this guy is a con man, and like he just like he doesn't even hold back. Give me 2 cartons. It's terrible. It's a crappy thing. Like, but the world is crappy, and I think this is probably Jimmy's first real lesson. And the world is full of crap people. I'm trying not to swear.
Yeah, because that guy was just so brash in the fact that Jimmy had already called him out, so why is he not even going to be honest with him? He pulls out a wad of bills and pays for that, and was like, no, 2 cartons. It's like, because Jimmy had already called him. He had no reason to lie to him anymore. So that was a really interesting turn to me, and just sort of probably what prompted Jimmy to be like, all right, you can either con or be con.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question from the chat. Or just a point. Matthew Cassar says, Saul wouldn't exist if it weren't for that guy at his dad's store. Do you guys agree or disagree?
Oh, I disagree. I don't think that guy was the main reason. I think it's multiple people. I think that was an everyday occurrence.
Yeah.
I think it was Jimmy wouldn't be who he is if his dad wasn't a complete pushover like that. If his dad didn't completely believe in the good in people.
Yeah, and the fact that he brought it up in the moment, he's clearly seen this multiple occasions, and he's willing to now stand up to his dad and say, you know, you have to do something about this. Like, I can't bear to watch you do this anymore, because clearly he cares. But then as I said, he goes about taking it his own way, and it's the dark path. It's the path into the dark side. But you know, he's gonna do what he can to survive and be the wolf that he feels like he deserves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we already see him sort of already doing his little con thing just with the broom.
Yeah, and the Playboy. And
It's a little kid thing, but that's just such a Jimmy thing. To just like, I'm totally sweeping, Dad. Ooh. He's like, what, 9? And he's like looking at Playboys?
About that. 9, 11, something like that. 12.
But yeah, so I did think it was fun to go back and see that sort of Saul. This is like the origin story to the origin story of Saul Goodman.
This is the Uncle Ben to Saul's Peter Parker.
Nice. That's good. But yeah, so let's jump back to adult Jimmy, because when he does finally, like when this is all starting to come together, he goes to Kim and presents her with a huge swing of an idea.
Yeah, with the business card. I love
Wexler
that.
McGill, which we see him sketching.
Yeah.
It was
when
cool.
you first see it, you
nice,
immediately know what he's doing.
It's a cool build towards that.
It's a nice business card.
Yeah, real
Very
nice
classic.
with the cutout.
Yeah, Patrick Bateman would have been totally jealous of that business card.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me that it was
American
not
Psycho.
more flashy. Like, it was very professional. It was cut nice. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't quite the Jimmy McGill style, but I mean, it was hella cool.
Say hello.
I did say hella. I'm not even from North Cal.
Yeah, I was like, are you from San Fran?
I'm unplugging
man?
your
No,
mic.
you're not.
I'm gonna make Aaron's face.
But I do think that it is Jimmy though, because it's so slick.
Yeah.
Like, remember the colorful Saul Goodman that we saw in this episode a little bit. That is something that it was just to get fired. Like, we'll see when and why he goes back to it eventually on this show. But this was just sort of an experimental run for him, I think.
I think more than anything, it was a business card to impress Kim.
Yeah.
More than anything, because he wants desperately for her to actually get in on this idea of his.
Yeah, he also is bending to what he thinks Kim would want on a business card.
I was just so, like, this whole time hoping, like, Kim, do not do this. It's gonna be so hard to watch, because I'm just like, Jimmy will let you down.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. So, Lacretia and Kevin, do you agree? Would that if Kim had said at that moment, yes, let's do this, Wexler McGill all the way, would that have gone terribly? Would it have blown up?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. I mean, if anything from this season has shown us, it would probably crumble within a couple of months. She would see all of the shady things that he'd be dealing on the backside, even dealing with Mike. I mean, she would find out eventually that there are gangsters involved, and she would shoo him away from doing things like this, and then he would start doubting himself again, which would in turn ruin that relationship.
Yeah, because I love how Hillary Schaefer in the chat he put Wexler first, too. So, like, he's clearly trying to put Kim first in this situation and really try to impress her, but that's not who he is. Mm-hmm. And I love that, instead of just saying yes, because while this sounds great, the business card's awesome, she's like, but yeah, who are you going to be? Are you going to be, going the ways of the law like I do? Straight-laced, I think is what she said. Or are you gonna be you? I mean, pretty much. And I love how at first he, it's like, oh no, straight. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I liked that he came back and was like, you know what? No, the whole point is to be me.
Yeah, I really like the quote. I've been trying to be the person someone else wants me to be. Because that's really what we watched him be this whole show.
Yeah. It was refreshing to see him finally embrace being himself. in this episode. It's just everything about it, from the suits to the fact that he was telling the truth to Kim, to everything about it. He's embracing who he is as a person.
Yeah.
I think there's two things that Jimmy values. It's his life and it's Kim. It's basically that. And what I want to ask you guys right now, because where I'm seeing this writing going, I have a little bit of a prediction in mind for where we could be seeing this. Not this season, maybe next season.
Throw it out there.
Do you think that Jimmy would, if it was between Jimmy being shot and Kim being disbarred, which would Jimmy choose?
Jimmy being shot?
Jimmy being shot or
Like
Kim being disbarred?
Like shot dead.
Like shot dead, like murdered. And Kim being disbarred, which would Jimmy choose?
Kim being disbarred, like, Jimmy's always got a plan. Like, he would have plans in place to get her back on track. Like,
So you're saying he'd choose her being disbarred, though?
over
Well, it's not the end of her.
Over
Yeah,
him
it's
dying.
not the end of
See,
her life.
That's where I see this going. I see them having two different firms that they both start, and being involved in the case with Tuco or Salamanca, where he's defending, she's prosecuting, and they make Jimmy go to whatever lengths possible to get the case thrown out. And if whatever that is requires unearthing something that shows that Kim broke the rules, which could be having that check with Ice Station Zebra or whatever it is, even something they did together. Like, I see him saving his own ass by having evidence against her to get the case thrown out that would have her disbarred. Because that's what there needs to be a colossal rift between these two characters at some point in this series. And I think where we're leading to with both of them having their own firms, if this is where we're going, is if I were to take two characters that have their own firms, what's the most interesting storyline we can get with that? Put them against each other.
Yeah. I mean, with 3 episodes left, I don't know if we're going to get that this season, but I could definitely see it going there in the future. Like, that's the kind of intensity and tough, like, dilemma that I could see Saul, Jimmy, whichever it is at that point.
And
Or
it
the
could
other
have to
option
be
is
life or death.
they say they're just going to kill her, or he's going to put this on. So, like,
Yeah, I mean, that's
with-
an easy decision for Jimmy. But
we're,
yeah.
Right.
we're dealing with Tuco Salamanca. We're dealing with these people who are murderers.
Well, not Tuco. Tuco's still going to jail. It's shorter, but for the basically for the duration of Better Call Saul, Tuco's in jail.
Yeah.
Because in Breaking Bad he had just gotten out, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah.
So Tuco's gone, but now we're dealing with Hector.
Yeah, who's more dangerous.
Yeah. Because he's not as the difference is he is not as unstable as Tuco, but he is more willing to just go out there and kill people if needed. Like he's not going to hesitate on that kind of thing.
I'm just saying, if Jimmy gets Kim disbarred to save her life, there's no way he could tell her that, and there's no way that he would tell her that. So then it would just end their relationship. It'd just be one of those things where she would live on hating him.
Well, Kim comes with that idea after her interview with
Howard. Oh, sorry, not Howard.
Schweikert.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that was so funny.
I hurt in that moment because like that's like when you're like a little kid and you like accidentally call like your teacher mom or something.
Yeah.
in
Oh,
front
that's
of
the
class.
worst. It's the worst.
And you're just like, you can't take it back. Like it's out there. There's nothing you can do.
Not even in like a Johnny Bravo way, like Mama. It's like, hey Mom, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Hurt.
Especially when it's the hot teacher you have a crush on.
Way to make it weird.
It wasn't before.
Yeah, well, not like that. It wasn't. I do want to call out, like, I really like the interview scene. I think it was cool that we got a little bit more Kim. There's one thing I want to talk about, though.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. It's a cool prediction-esque, like, theory.
Yeah.
If you listen, when they ask Kim, like, tell us about yourself. And she's talking about, like, oh, I'm from the Kansas-Nebraska border, not from New Mexico. Where is Jimmy in the future currently?
Omaha.
Gene is in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
What if that's where Kim's from?
Yeah, I mean,
From the
that's,
outliers of
somebody in the chat just said that.
Yeah,
They
and
said,
that's what I was
we'll see
thinking
Kim
too.
at the Cinnabon in Omaha.
Oh, well, you beat me to it. I didn't even see it in the chat
Yeah.
roll.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I had
as
it
soon
written
as
down
she
'cause
said
I was
it.
excited about it.
As soon as she said it, I was like, I bet we see her come in and see him. Because, yeah, at first I was like, oh, they're going to kill her maybe before, Breaking Bad. No. Once she said that, I was like, no, she's going to live, and she's going to see his pathetic life at Cinnabon.
Yeah, I mean, that, look, we've talked about it before. I think that a great trajectory for this show, because 3 seasons is a great number in terms of an arc. If you're going to do, because we saw Jimmy, rise to the point where he's now, with Davis and Maine. And now, this season, he's, testing out that, and he goes back. And then next season would be him finding himself and becoming Saul. A 4th season jumping to Gene would be fascinating and a cool way to go. Yeah. So this would be a cool way to bring Kim into that world in the future.
Even if they don't even do that, they could finish season 3 with 1 episode that's in the future and have the finale be their happily ever after. I mean, totally. I'd like to see Jimmy get a happily ever after. The way they leave his character off in Breaking Bad is very, very dismal and sad. He doesn't really deserve that. I mean, he's done some messed up stuff, but he doesn't really deserve that ending. So for them to build him up in this way, I really hope that, at least maybe we get something that's, even if it's just her coming into the Cinnabon, that's the last thing we see, and her smile or something.
Yeah.
That, leave it off there. We don't even need to know what happens when they meet each other in Omaha. Whatever.
Yeah, again, rewatching Breaking Bad, there is plenty of room around Saul Goodman's storyline for Kim to be present in his life during that year. During those years. Maybe not, not in the sense, not married, that kind of involved, but there's no reason she can't be around. There's plenty of time in between what we see him doing with Jesse and Walt.
I prefer that she's not involved.
I'm not saying that she is, or that I necessarily need her to be or want her to be. I'm saying she could be in the area. She could be checking in on him. Anything where she pops in for in the middle of that timeline. I'm just saying that it would work timeline.
Totally possible, just unlikely in my opinion.
But anyway, so Kim at the end of the episode comes back with the 2 firms, 1 office idea. Mm-hmm. And Steven, you were throwing out your theories on that, but to everybody, do you think they're going to do it? Do you think this is a good idea? Regardless of whether or not it blows up to that extent, is this a good idea in the short term? Let's say.
Honestly, because, I think Kim is just desperate to be out of HHM at this point. I mean, the thing is she, feels like she's pretty much set herself back and that she might never be partner, and that's what she wants. So, if she's her own boss, that was the thing, is she didn't want to be partners with Jimmy because they're so different, but I think that she's very intrigued by being her own boss, and I think it'll work out to an extent. But the problem is with Kim... And, like her for it, but she's more of a people pleaser. So I don't think that being her own boss is really going to work out as well for her in her trajectory. Because it is one of those things where I don't think she'll know what to do with herself.
You don't think she's capable of, she was able to go out with nothing, basically, and pull in a massive client. You don't think she's capable of running her own?
I think she is. I think she's a much better lawyer than we would ever assume. I think the fact that she worked from her mailroom all the way up to her current position with HHM is impressive. I think though, that what set her off and why I think that she will do this solo thing and be a self-made boss is because of how things went at the interview. As much as you can say that it was just an embarrassing Freudian slip saying Howard, it's the fact is that she's still in a position of the lesser, and it's still somebody she's talking up to. And it's the same thing, just with a different paint coat on. Mm-hmm. And that's why she says Howard. That's why they have her say Howard, is because as much as it's a different firm, it's a different person, it's the same relationship as her and Howard. It's the same person who could say, hey, you pissed me off, you're in the mailroom now for the next 10 years. And then the first thing she does, go outside and smoke. She does, it's the same thing, different day.
Yeah, and I like that she sort of made that realization. She was smart enough and started looking at the card, you know what, it's this, new boss, same as the old boss, as the Who says. I mean, the thing is, though, is like Kim is a hard worker. That's why she's gotten to where she is. But yeah, sometimes the best worker bees just don't make the greatest leaders. And I would like to see more of Kim in the courtroom, because maybe that would change my mind, because I think that she's excellent there.
I know you have a comment to make.
Go for it.
I just watched the movie Up in the Air yesterday, which is a George Clooney movie, Jason Reitman, and the whole movie's about them firing people. And they have this line where he says, all the great people and emperors and kings have sat where you've sat right now. And it's basically a line to say, like, okay, you're getting fired, but you could go do whatever you've always wanted to do. You can create this new empire. You can do what you want. And I feel like this is the position Kim's in. She can either leave her position and go and be in the same position somewhere else, or she can realize that leaving Howard Hamlin's a greater opportunity than what she realizes. And I think it's going to be beneficial for her to leave and do her own thing. As she's found, with nobody on her team, she brought in such a huge client.
Yeah, with Jimmy and Kim both being at the mercy of others this entire season, you have to think that both of them are going to take advantage of this moment where Jimmy now has the financial stability to be able to start out their own firms, to pay off all of her debts, and to make this work as a team in the way that they can work as a team. And I think that maybe in the future, before everything crumbles down, there's a possibility where if one of them is struggling, the other can pick the other up in an area where they falter in. Kim isn't really good at hustling, and she might struggle getting new clients. Well, Jimmy will find a way to get her clients because he cares that much, and Kim will help Jimmy out in the courtroom doing the things that doing the procedural things that are ethical to make him win his cases. So even though they're not working together, they'll still find a way to work off of one another.
Well, that's the interesting thing that would come up in that circumstance. Like if you're working in the same office, but you're in a sense competing firms, is like, what do you do when a client comes in just like looking for a lawyer? How do you decide who gets the client? Like if they're both trying similar types of cases, unless they're super hyper focused, like she's in copyright law and he's in elder law, like they're going to have crossover and they're going to basically be competing. If they were in the same firm, then that's not an issue. It's a non-issue. But I could see them butting heads if they both want a client really bad.
I don't think that they're actually I don't think they're going to be competing financially, though. And if financial competition is the problem, I don't really see that being a factor, because these two are going to be hopefully at some point in time maybe living under the same roof, so it might not matter in the future.
But look at the clientele. Look at how Davis and Mann was already mad about the commercial Jimmy did. But look at Saul Goodman's clientele. They are baggy clothes wearing Jesse Pinkman. You got Huell as a bodyguard, a big dude who looks like he could kill you with the second glance. And then imagine taking a room full of carnies, right? And then putting them next to a room full of Maria Menounos'. Like, it's funny because Kevin was a carny and he's Maria's fiance. It's hilarious.
It's a weird thing to
just imagine doing that. Like, are those Maria Menounos going to feel comfortable coming into an office where across the street or across the hallway there's a bunch of tattooed people with cigarettes and piercings and glaring at them, catcalling them? Like, that's the reason why I feel like this will have friction, is the clientele base. Kim's going for high quality banker material and Jimmy goes for the criminal. He's a criminal lawyer.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely going to be her, and something I don't think Kim really sees. Like, she doesn't really notice that, like, that's going to be the problem. Although you mentioned Huell, and if I can ask for anything that I like, any, like, small, like, Breaking Bad thing, I don't need a lot of them, but if I can ask for any, I want Huell and Kubi, Bill Burr's character. I want them, especially Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr. I want to see them on Better Call Saul Season 3.
In the chat, Hillary Sheffer said something great. She said, anyone else reminded by Walt when Kim said she wanted more in the interview? And this is a reference to, like, how much money do you need, Walt? More. It's great because it's just like the realization, I'm in the business of empires. And somebody who's driven, who wants more, they don't put a cap on themselves. They're just going to keep going until they get to where they're satisfied. Which usually, in the business of Hollywood and stuff, nobody's ever satisfied. But you need that drive to survive.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, these are all driven characters. Like, the people we've met, like, between Jimmy, Kim, Walt, like, these are people who want things in life. They're not satisfied. And that's what drives them, is their want for more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Kim or Jimmy or Wexler McGill?
I like
Wexler
how
and
Whataburger
Yeah.
was the reward for her quitting.
I know that made me so mad in Miss
Hey.
Home. I was like, oh, I want Whataburger now, and they don't have them here in California.
Hey, I
like
mean,
that-
he just quit his job.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, burgers are fancy now.
I liked it when they started the meeting. He said, "Will I see you tonight?" And she's like, "Maybe." And then when they leave the meeting afterwards, it's like, "Are you going to see you tonight?" She's like, "Duh."
Yeah.
Like, it changed, and like after the conversation, it was like, "Yes, you're going to see me tonight." I like that. All right, no, Mike.
Yeah. It is. Oh, yeah. Well, my last thought on that is like, this is a real dangerous just because of one principle. And I did kind of want Kim to just say it when Jimmy first presented. It's like, it's a basic thing. Don't shit where you eat. Yep. All right. Let's move over to Mike.
Give it to me,
yes.
Chandler.
No.
Don't drop it on Chandler where you eat.
Oh my God.
He went there.
Mike. So we open on Mike doing like what he promised Hector he would do, and like I thought it was cool that Jimmy found a way for him to say the gun's not Tuco's, but still not indict himself on a
Indict.
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 No, I think it would be
It's indict. It's spelled indict. It's indict.
no. That's a different. Whatever. It doesn't matter either way. In this crime of having an unlicensed firearm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know how it got
yeah.
there. I don't know how it has his prints on it. Maybe a bird dropped it in his hands and then he dropped it. I don't
love
know.
Jimmy's reasonings.
Yeah,
like,
it's not my job to know. It's not my client's job to know. All I know is if you put him up on the stand, he's going to deny everything.
But they know immediately what's up.
No.
Yeah, but it happens to cops all the time. You know, that's what happens. They know that he's been threatened. They know that he's been coerced in some way, but they can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Although there's that moment where they're like, he's like, my client's not a forensics expert. I'm like, hold on a second. I'm pretty sure your client is a former police officer.
There you go.
No.
But I mean, it was cool to see Jimmy doing his thing. What did you guys think of the whole exchange between Mike and Jimmy at the elevator?
I love that, where Mike's just like, you'll take the next one. He was just, Mike's never a man for a lot of words, but he says everything when he's just like, no, screw you.
I think he was mad that he had to get Jimmy involved at all.
Yeah, he
yeah.
didn't want him to be there.
No, he's a guy who feels like he has failed his plan, and the fact that he had to get somebody else involved to help him get out of this pickle is it makes him feel less.
He doesn't like to owe favors.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, Mike is his own man, and he hates asking for help. And that was the thing, is he just felt so crappy having to ask Jimmy McGill for help.
But he needed a lawyer there, because if there's too many questions that he should be answering. Completely. But yeah, so I mean, Mike's storyline in this episode is pretty brief. We did get some more just why he's going to need to make more money, because his daughter-in-law found a house.
Yeah, a really nice house in a nice neighborhood. And
Yeah.
And she actually hugged him.
Yeah.
Called him Papa.
Still seems so weird to me. I don't know. It just feels like this whole thing is just going to kind of crumble down for Mike, because clearly in
Breaking Bad.
Thank you. We see a strained relationship, and I feel like Mike is not going to cause that, because he's doing everything in his power to make this relationship work. I feel like it's going to come from the other end, and his daughter-in-law is going to turn on him somehow.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think if anything, that's going to come from her finding out where the money's coming from, but being unwilling to say no, because they move into this house. This house is a very good place for the daughter to grow up. She's got good schools. It's one of the lowest crime rates in the area, And
nice backyard.
And that's a hard thing to give up, like regardless of what you think about the money that paid for it. So I think just bottom line, like if she finds that he's basically doing similar stuff to what got her husband killed in Philadelphia.
Well, and to be honest, she kind of assumes that it's not, legal, that what he's doing, and it's not on the up and up. I would think so. I mean, because, he told her the truth about what happened with her husband and, the cops. So she has to assume that he is not doing this by, the straight and narrow. But she doesn't want the money to stop. And that's what I'm guessing is maybe Mike finally puts a stop to it at one point because he feels like he's being taken advantage of. And that may be the reason for the rift. Because, she is a little bit, we have to, I get wanting a great place for your kid, but she just seemed really phony with that hug and everything.
I don't think so at all. I don't think she's taking advantage of Mike at all. I think Mike's offering and she's taking it. Yeah. I think it's plain and simple. I think she doesn't ask where the money's coming from. Yeah. I think she assumes it's from his pension or something.
She doesn't, and if she does have any suspicions, she doesn't want to know. She's not trying to, I agree with Steve. I don't think she's trying to pull anything. I don't think she's actively I'm going to squeeze this old man for all he's worth. I think that she is looking out for her daughter, somebody who is family to her, not her blood, but is family.
I just don't see somebody doing something in return, though. She's not doing anything beyond just her presence and her daughter's presence.
Her daughter is his granddaughter. Well, when you were growing up and you got a $100 check from your grandparents or whatever it was, did you immediately call your grandparents and be like, hey, I know you make this much a year. I know what your job is. You can't afford to be sending me $100 checks.
I'm talking about the daughter-in-law who can at least bake something or some gesture of goodwill.
She did. She baked for 9 months to get him a granddaughter. She had a bun in the oven for 9 months, and here's your granddaughter cake. I just
don't see this appreciation from her, and it's got me feeling weird. I see Matthew Cesar in the chat room. He feels the same way, Lacretia. So we'll see how this goes down going forward. But I just got this feeling.
All right, I disagree. There was a nice little Breaking Bad reference in the house scene, by the way.
Yeah.
The real estate agent was the same one that that Marie stole a spoon from.
Yes.
She was showing a house, and Marie stole the spoon from the house.
Can I ask something going back to the last episode or 2 episodes ago?
Yeah. Please.
Ice Station Zebra. So, Ice Station Zebra was a reference to what?
The movie that they were watching that Kim had loved as a kid that she watched with her dad.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the one that she watched. Okay, I just watched The Aviator, and it had the Howard Hughes movie, and Howard Hughes watched 120 times in a row, Ice Station Zebra.
Oh, really?
So I didn't know if that had anything to do with it, because you notice Jimmy's in that weird space. Never mind, though. I thought there might have been some connection, but never mind.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
So, I think that was it, and I haven't seen that movie necessarily. I'm sure that if we dug into it, went and watched it, it would have some very relevant themes to probably more to Breaking Bad than to Better Call Saul, only because it was originally in Breaking Bad, is where that name first got dropped. But they also wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't relevant to what's going on here. That sort of covers the episode.
Let me wrap you guys with a question, and I want to know what you think. This is a long-term prediction, whether this show gets 2 more seasons or wraps at the end of the next season. Happy ending or sad ending?
Bittersweet at best.
Really?
Yeah.
It's Vince Gilligan. It will be yep, that's his life. We're at the end.
I think Saul is going to, when we see him become Saul, it's going to be him really coming into his own and find it, because that's going to be him truly finding himself. But I can't imagine it doesn't come at the cost of something, and I imagine, and we've talked about this a lot tonight, something with his relationship with Kim. Whether that's something as serious as death or as minor as a breakup, something his relationship with Kim will be the thing that he loses in order to become who he truly is.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'm assuming is that Sorry, I'll let you speak first.
Oh, okay. The estranged relationship that you guys brought up, and even just the little theory that you had of just a simple smirk at Cinnabon is, I don't know, that's a fuzzy feeling inside of me that I want to keep. Like, if that does happen, that's making me happy already right now. I don't know how realistic it is. I'd like to think that there's a part of Jimmy's character that's different from Walt's character in that there is some innate good in him.
He's redeemable.
Exactly. And Walt's really not. And I think that there's something that going forward, I hope that we're rewarded for that, or at least Jimmy's rewarded for it.
I really think that Kim is the glue that'll tie future and present in Better Call Saul together.
Yeah, I think so.
So, like, I really think that they've done a great job setting up this character and their relationship that I really don't know if it'll be this season, but I'd love to see a huge break between that. And then have her be the last thing we see in the finale.
Yeah. This is an interesting theory from Hillary in the chat. She says, I think Kim might break bad. We saw Slip and Kimmy last week. The idea that, like, what if, like, we see her, she's trying to be on the up and up, but, like, now she's following Jimmy into this solo practitioner world. What if she follows him into the criminal lawyer path? Like, what if she dives in head first? If she sees him, let's say they do this Wexler and McGill office setup. What if she's struggling? She can't really get any clients. She's looking at potentially going under, and then she sees it right across the hall. Jimmy's got lines out the door of these people who are weird, creepy. Why in the world would you want to represent them? But he's doing great. He is successful with that clientele. I can only imagine it would only take so long for her to fall to that dark side, to start saying, well, maybe I'll just do a couple of those, and then a couple more, and then a couple more before she's deeper into that world.
I think it's possible. I think anything's possible. I would still just rather see Jimmy have to do just something so despicable to her to save her or to save himself. I think that's just the dynamic that could make sense.
Well, I could definitely see him doing something to save her. It would I feel like it would hurt too much if it was to save himself, unless it was his life at stake, and that's a different story.
I think we've predicted that because there's going to be some sort of rift, some kind of part between the two of them, that I don't know how a Slip and Kimmy would fall into place in that plot.
I think if anything, she could just be so unsuccessful that she has to go home.
Well, it could be that she goes that route, and then because she's just not as good at that as Jimmy is, she winds up disbarred for something that he would have found a way to get away with. But she's just not, like, that's not her personality. That's not her base instinct. So she would slip.
Yeah, because she's not a liar. I mean, that's the thing, is she's all about the straight and narrow. Jimmy just, let's call it lying, might as well. I mean, because his conning way of doing things is how he's able to represent these clients who are obviously guilty most of the time. Kim is not going to be good at that. I mean, because that's not who she is.
Well, that's what's so scary, though, is because she's done 2 of these cons.
No.
So what happens when your past catches up with you?
What happens when she tries one on her own? Because she thinks, I've done it twice, I can do one without Jimmy.
Yeah, so I mean, I think... Yeah, you never know what could happen in Vince Gilligan's shows.
Yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff are possible on this show. I mean, we've been doing it all week. Do we need to do some? Yeah, I don't think we even need to go into official predictions this week because we've been doing it all show. But so I think with that's going to do it for this week's episode of Better Call Saul, the Better Call Saul after show at AfterBuzz TV. I want to thank you guys again for joining us. Thank you to all you guys in the live chat. I'm going to do some quick shout-outs from there. We already shouted out Hillary Sheffer, but thank you again. Vic Nightingale, Brian Hill, Lindy May, Jason L., Daniel Yount, Matthew Kasser, all you guys. If I missed Jonathan Ma, if I missed anybody else, Tales of a Pre-Sequel, Time Psych. All you guys. If I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but thank you so much for joining us live. If you would also like to join us live and you're listening to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or watching us later on YouTube, we tape this show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be sure to join us at youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV for the live broadcast. Until next week, You can follow me at @ZachWilson on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the places. And also here at AfterBuzz on a whole bunch of shows, including Grimm, Sleepy Hollow with Stephen Lemieux over there. Only 2 episodes left, and a whole bunch more. So, Kevin Ellis, where can everyone keep up
You can
with you?
find me on Twitter at @TheKevinEllis or on Instagram at KevinEllis25. Don't listen to me earlier. I keep screwing up my Instagram on this thing.
Well, and since Zach and Steven swear they can spell it, I won't spell it out, but of course you can find me at Lacretia Lyon.
And you can find me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux, and if you can't spell it, it's spelled STEPHENLEMIUX, because my last name has an X in it, which I think is a little bit harder to spell than Lion.
Yeah, but Lemieux, I mean, come on.
Mario
Who doesn't know that?
Catch us on the, of course, Sleepy Hollow After Show, as well as the Better. I do Lucifer Monday night.
House of Cards, House of Cards.
Trying to get Steven some rest, guys.
Yeah.
This has been the Better Call Saul After Show. Thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Better call you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.